Hi, this is going to be a tricky one. It's about the 5th time or something that I've done this. Primarily because I don't seem to be able to set up this slideshow without something going amiss. Hopefully this is about as good as it gets, but it's not perfect, as you can see. But it's a kind of a slideshow that sort of... it's like the story so far, really, because at the moment I'm not really sure how the story carries on. So I thought I'd do a little kind of recap, which means that I'm including a lot of personal things that I would not normally do, because I feel like I've already opened up in a way that I was never intending to on this channel. It was purely to be a channel about the work and the ideas and not about me. But since my partner passed away, and which was about 5 weeks ago now, I have put some pretty personal things on my channel, and I feel like if I sort of go back from that now, it doesn't feel authentic anymore. It doesn't feel real. I feel like I need to carry on in this more personal vein, which is not really what I'd planned. However, life, none of what has happened is what I have planned. It's just, you know, got to roll with what's happening. And here I am, sharing things that I would never normally have shared, i.e. there are personal photographs on here of me, which I never wanted to do, photographs of Gary, photographs of my favourite places that we went together, our favourite places, a sort of resume of work, and over the years, not any particular choices, just a kind of a random selection of things that I've done over the years, and just images like this one you're just seeing, which is Gary walking into the distance, that means something right now. So I thought I'd give you something to look at while I'm going on, because I just don't know where this is going. I've got a load of notes here from my previous attempts at making this video, and I don't really want to read them because it just becomes very stilted and uncomfortable, and I'm going to use them as a kind of crib sheet. Now you can see on that one there that the top of the image is getting kind of blurred out and dark, but this is the best I can do, so I hope you can see most of the images okay. Yes, so what can I tell you? Well, I'm not in a good way, really. The funeral was the worst day of my life, but I actually did manage to get there. I managed to get to Gary's funeral. I would have actually sort of dragged myself down the motorway on my hands and knees if I had to, because if I love somebody, I will do something regardless of how much it costs me personally, and it cost me a lot personally, but I had to do it, and I had to read that eulogy that's uploaded on here. I had to do that myself, and I'm so glad I did. Yeah, it was just the worst day ever, really, and had to do it all on my own, really. I did have some support from Gary's daughter, which was lovely, but generally, well, anyway, yes, the bottom line is that I have, besides the funeral, I have dealt with this very, very, very close bereavement that has devastated me entirely on my own. Now, this isn't the pity party poppy thing, it's just a fact. I have dealt with this entirely on my own, and that's not good, my friends. It really is not. Yeah, it's not highly it's not recommended that you deal with something so devastating on your own, but I've literally had no choice. My circumstances here are such that that is the case, and yeah, as I've tried to explain before, grief is a spiky ball that nobody really wants to catch hold of, And pretty much once the funeral was over, you know, nobody wanted to grab that spiky ball. I think it's been thrown around from person to person. It's like, no, I don't want that. Move it on, drop it on the floor, just get rid of it, kick it to the side. I don't want to pick that ball up. I know that's a really weird analogy, but that's how I see it. It's kind of like my grief is a spiky ball that nobody wants to get hold of. I don't know whether I blame people for that or not, really. I'm not really in the blame game or anything like that. This is not the point of this video. It's kind of a catch up. It also is sort of a heart opening, which is a really, really dangerous thing to do on here. It really is, because, you know, it's making me very vulnerable, and there are people out there, whether they know me or not, who will delight in that kind of vulnerability and want to attack. You know, the sharks will be circling and the trolls will be trolling and so forth, because I'm opening my heart. But, you know, I have all the way through tried to be authentic, and this is what's happening. It wasn't what I planned. I wanted to just share my work, but here I am. And here I am at a point where I really shouldn't, at this point, had Gary have lived, we would have been in the process of getting me out of a situation that has drained the life out of me for 4 years plus, which is the situation, which has meant I've dealt with this all on my own, you see. I have ended up, I think I've touched on this briefly in other videos over time. I've not gone into it because that wasn't my intention, but I have mentioned briefly that I've ended up in my parents' house, in my old childhood home, on my own, in a place that just absolutely is the wrong place for me. As somebody said to me not that long ago, that place is not good for your soul. It's been very, very bad for your soul. I couldn't agree more. That's why we were trying to get me out of here. Gary was the help, the strength, the driving force of getting me out of here, because I just couldn't do it on my own. I just could not do it on my own. I tried over those 4 years, and I kept failing. I just couldn't do it, physically, emotionally, whatever, because I'd had my parents' double bereavement, and then I had my best friend Sue dying, and this was before even Gary passed away. And I'd been stuck somewhere on my own, which I found, that's why I left here in the first place, you know, over 30 years ago. This place and me, we are not compatible, and we are still not compatible. And I have very much tried to apply my everyday enchantment ethos to this place. I used to go out and I used to look for the magic in the mundane, and I would force myself to do it. Pretty much every day for a long time, I would make myself go out. No matter how bad I felt, I'd make myself go out, and I'd force myself to look for the flowers or the interesting piece of bark on a tree or anything, and I couldn't do it. And I just ended up most of the time, and here's the vulnerable person, and it's not looking for pity, I ended up coming back in tears. And eventually it was too much for me to go out, because it was not having the effect that it should have been. It's like going for a walk should be an uplifting thing that gives you energy, you know, perhaps fires your creativity or inspires you in some way, or just gives you some sort of uplift. And this was having the reverse effect. It was making me feel terrible. I felt like a ghost floating around in my own past that I'd never wanted to come back to, in this place that it just... Yeah, I'm not going to go on about it, because you don't know where I am. If you do know where I am, you probably won't agree with me, because you probably think it's fine. But for me, having lived in a rural area for over 30 years mostly, or interesting areas, coming back here has been it's just sapped me. It's just totally sapped me, along with the bereavement and being ill and everything. It's just totally drained me. There's just like, there's nothing even... My tank has not even got fumes in it to this stage, and that was, you know, before Gary passed away, which is why he was doing all the pushing to get me out of here, because he wanted to save me, and he wanted me to be back with him in the southwest of England, in the rural area, that would build me back up again, so I could keep on doing the work, and I could make videos and show you things and be interesting and be myself again. But of course that didn't happen, did it? So yeah, I'm just realising how deeply humiliating it is talking about this, but, you know, being real and not looking for pity, okay? I just feel now that I'm going to have to struggle saying this. I feel like I am like Sisyphus. Every day I'm pushing this boulder up this hill on my own, and it is coming rolling back down again every evening and squashing me. And this thing that you're only given what you can cope with is absolute, I would like to swear, but I'm not going to. It's just twaddle, really, because I have been given way more than I can cope with on my own, you know. With a support network, yes, maybe, but alone in a place that has done this to you, with all this bereavement, no chance, mate, you know. It's just flattened me completely. I challenge anybody to have survived this, to survive the loss of their life partner of 20 years and on their own, after all the rest of the stuff. Nah, it's really not happening. It's just not, anyway. So yes, what can I tell you now? I don't want this to be grim, but it is kind of, isn't it? You know, that's why there's some nice pictures for you to look at, so that you're not just going to go, oh my god, this person is just so dismal. I'm not actually dismal, and I am, to come back at the people who over the past time I've been here have said, oh, but you're stronger than you think. Yes, I am. I'm perfectly strong. I have coped with so much physical pain in my life, and still do. It doesn't bother me. I am incredibly strong in that respect. Emotionally, I have coped with things that most people would crumble on their own. I am not doubting my own strength, but there is only so much anybody can take without, you know, before they reach tipping point. And I have. Gary's passing was my tipping point, totally. And yeah, the emotional pain is the problem. The emotional and spiritual, if I should use that word, the spiritual pain. You know, my dad was this great, he was so brave. He had so much pain, and he was so brave, and he was my role model, because I learned stoicism. Nobody wants to be around a feverish clod of ailments whinging about their physical problems. I will tell people if they ask, but I don't dwell on it, you know. I'm not that way inclined. What bothers me is this terrible emotional trauma, really. It's not a mental trauma. I want to make that quite clear. It is really not a mental trauma. As I have said many times to you, I am not a brain on a stick. I am an eternal being having an experience. I am, for want of a better word, a soul in a body, having this life or existence or whatever it is. Yes, and something happened in the last few weeks which wasn't the person's fault. The person, very well-meaning person, got involved with a local agency here trying to get me some help that I didn't want, but trying to get me some help from a distance. And of course, as soon as he mentioned the way I was feeling, they sent for the police, which was a totally over-the-top reaction. And so I came down one day and found the police trying to break in, trying to find a ladder to get into a window. They were quite surprised when I looked at them out of the window, and they were rummaging around in the garage. And they wanted to hand me loads of leaflets about mental health and psychiatry. And I just, you know, I am completely compos mentis, thank you very much. It's not my heart is broken. My heart is completely smashed. My spirit is so weary. It really is, but my brain is fine, thank you very much. And I do not get anything from being counselled by somebody who does not know me, who does not know anything about my circumstance, who is just being paid to do a job. And actually, at some point when my parents passed away, my next door neighbour did say the same thing to me. I don't want to be counselled by somebody that never knew me or my loved ones, and for some people it doesn't work. For me, it doesn't work, and it kind of treats you as if you are, you know, having mental problems. I am not having mental problems. I'm having very deep spiritual and emotional problems, which is not surprising. I think if I wasn't, I think I'd be made out of some sort of lead or impermeable material, which I'm clearly not. What am I saying here? Yes, it's just like, this is your life in pictures, Poppy. Where do you go from here? I haven't got a blooming clue. I really don't, because everything I thought was going to happen, i.e. I was going to get out of here, I was going to start a new life, I was going to be with Gary in the place I loved in a matter of weeks, and he was taken. Now, I can't do these things on my own, It was something I needed him to be with me for. He was my light. He took the light with him, He took the strength with him. He took everything with him. It's just, yeah, but I'm getting too personal. You don't need to know all the ins and outs of the cat's bum, as it were, do you, on that one? No. What else did I want to say? I am going to be making some other videos, 2 other videos. One about the Empress of the Wild Spirit revamp. In fact, I might put that one up before this one. I'm not sure which way round they're coming yet, and there's also going to be a surprise one, because it was a surprise to me. So there are 2 more videos coming that aren't this, like me going, yeah, I don't know even whether I'm going to upload this one. It's a complete risk. It's a risk, talking this way. I'm just not able to talk to anybody. There's nobody left alive that knows me well enough. There's nobody left alive that knows me well enough to even write me a eulogy, to be frank. Nobody knows me well enough. The people that knew me that well, they've all gone. They've either died or they've disappeared from my life for one reason or another. But there is nobody left now. And I'm really not... Yeah, it's... What was I going to say then? Yeah... I don't know what I was going to say then, actually. It's just, yeah, I'm not adept at dealing with things on my own. I'm not really well equipped in the world. I've never have been. I'm very sensitive. I'm very, I don't know. I'm not really well adapted to this world, to this society. This world is really lovely. It's the society that I can't cope with very well. And I may as well be honest with you, which you probably might have guessed anyway, I have Aspergers, which doesn't really help. So, yeah, I suppose I'm just talking here to the people who I know care, because I know you're out there, you give me wonderful feedback, you support me beautifully. I'm talking to you, the trolley, horrible, nasty people that will get drawn to the vulnerable person. They're not who I'm speaking to, the loving people who will understand this, I hope. Yes, what else am I going to say? Yeah, having to be everything to yourself is extremely difficult, and I'm having to be everything to myself when life is difficult enough as it is. And physically, I have to mention it because it's true, physically I'm extremely rickety, and the only way I was going to get out of this situation into a better situation was because Gary was going to help me. And now I'm still kind of embroiled in that process, not knowing what to do, because, there's one of me now, there's not 2 of me, because he was my other half. There's just one of me, and I don't even know what to do anymore, really. So, yeah, what am I going to say now? Yes, we've talked about that, so I'm not being pathetic. I just thought I'd clarify that. And I'm going to have to stop this video in a minute, maybe talk about something else in part 2. I'm not being pathetic. I'm really not being pathetic. If you just try and, this empathy thing, empathy, it's like the most key thing that should be taught to people. It should be, compassion and empathy, because, just try and put yourself in my shoes. I don't really want you to be in my shoes, because I wouldn't wish this on anybody. But, I'm not... Imagine how bad this is when you're just dealing with this all on your own. It doesn't matter how strong you are, how capable you are of being in your own company. I'm fine in my own company, but not when I'm not at this level. This is not, And I'm no longer even self-propelling. I haven't got that impetus anymore because of the experience of being here for so long and everything that's happened. I can't get myself out of it. I'm going on about that too much. I'll just leave that, you know. It was so important. It was so important what we were doing, me and Gary. It was just going to save me, save the situation. Yeah, and now it just feels like, well, if I force myself on my own to do one of the biggest stressors in life, moving, a huge move from my parents' house to a long, long way away, on my own, and then when I get there I'll be on my own and I'll do the whole thing on my own while dealing with a bereavement. It just feels like, yes, it's the fool's journey. Yes, it's the fool's journey, Poppy, but yeah, the fool is so worn out that I can barely stand up or string a thought together, you know. Yeah, but you know, it's like if I don't force myself over the edge and through the horrendous stress, then what happens? Nobody can answer that, because I don't know. It's like I just turn my face to the wall and give up. I just don't know. At the moment I have no answer. And here's a little story before I finish. It's about a friend of mine who I went to art college with, who was very dear to me, but he always had this horrendous death wish. He was very dramatic and very kind of romantic, and he had this terrible death wish, even though he was a wonderful person. And he was always trying to find ways to do himself in. And apparently he put his head in a kiln when he went on to university. I was told that, but it didn't work, obviously. But he did actually find a way in the end, and he put the hose onto his car exhaust and he killed himself, my dear friend. And his flatmate told me that a week after he died, he had a letter from Roger Dean, who was one of those artists that did covers for bands like Yes, very, very well regarded. Carl, that my friend, loved him, and he'd got a very positive letter from Roger Dean asking him to get in touch with him about his work. And he'd been dead for a week. So yeah, you think, well, I have to stick around to find out what happens next, but at the same time I've kind of got no it's just like, how do you stick around when you've got nothing left? Nothing. I just need some, I don't know. I don't think I'll ever do this again in the same way that I've just done this, you know. It's I don't know. I don't want you to feel sorry for me. I'm just being honest with you. I'm just being honest, you know, in a way that maybe that's what I do. I encourage other people to be honest now, you know. Maybe there's a different thing that I do now, is encourage openness in a world that does not really appreciate it and runs away from it or insults it. But we know we've got to stick by our authenticity and what our heart tells us to do. Bearing my soul does not feel wise. It does not feel wise. I don't have British reticence at all, but neither am I kind of Sinead O'Connor, bless her heart, wailing out her pain into the internet as she does periodically. No. I've probably made a boo-boo doing this video, but hey, here it is. It's not very cohesive. It's not very, I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to stop now. I'm going to do a part 2, which is going to be a little bit more sensible, I hope. Okay, bye for now.